Hello and welcome to this GCSE Science Core Biology crash course video on adaptations and survival. In this video we're going to go and cover all of the aspects that you'll need to know to answer these questions. Follow the link below to download a summary sheet which you can annotate and highlight as you go through. In this video we're going to cover animal adaptations, plant adaptations, competition in animals and plants, and measuring environmental change. Organisms are adapted to survive in different conditions. Over many generations, these adaptations have come about through variation. Variation involves small changes between organisms which may allow that organism to compete better for survival. Variation can also have an environmental or genetic cause. The first set of organisms that we need to focus on are organisms living in hot climates. When an organism is living in a hot climate, generally they will be smaller, so have a larger surface area to volume ratio so they can lose heat easily, and will be adapted to lose less water. One example of an animal that lives in a hot climate that can come up in the exam is a camel. Camels live in deserts that are hot and dry during the day but cold at night. They are well adapted for survival in the desert. Camels have large flat feet to spread their weight over the sand so they don't sink. Thick fur on the top of their body for shade and thin fur elsewhere to allow easy heat loss. A large surface area to volume ratio which maximizes heat loss. The ability to go for a long time without water. It's important, however, to remember that they do not store water in their humps. They do, however, lose very little water through urination and sweating. They have the ability to tolerate a body temperature of up to 42 degrees, and they have slit nostrils and thick eyelashes which keep sand out of their eyes and nose. When we look at animals that are living in cold climates, the questions always focus about how they will go and keep warm. Every organism has certain features or characteristics that allow them to survive successfully in their habitat. These features are called adaptations. One example of an animal which is well adapted to live in the cold is a polar bear. Polar bears have a white appearance which enables them to be camouflaged against the snow and ice, so prey won't see them. They have thick layers of fat and fur for insulation. They have a small surface area to volume ratio. They have a greasy coat which allows them to shed water while swimming. They also have black skin which absorbs all of the infrared radiation or heat from the sun, and clear fur which allows the sun to pass through it. The fur only appears white as lots of light is reflected off it. The other main adaptation in animals that's talked about are specific adaptations of animals that live in water. One example of this is the shark. Sharks are predators, so we need to consider both how they are generally adapted to live in water and how they are specifically adapted to be a predator. Sharks are streamlined, which helps them move through the water as it reduces friction. They have gills, which have a large surface area so that they can absorb oxygen from the water. They have powerful fins which help them swim in the water and help keep them stabilized. In terms of specific adaptations which allow them to hunt, they have specialised sense organs which can detect sound, movement and electrical fields from other organisms. They have a highly sensitive sense of smell that can detect drops of blood from miles away. They have many rows of sharp teeth that can be constantly replaced, and they have a silver colour underneath, so when animals look up from below them, it looks like they are looking at the top of the surface of the water. Plants are adapted to compete for the following three things: water, space, and minerals. Water will always talk about adaptations in the roots, and the stroma in leaves allow gases in and out for photosynthesis and respiration. When talking about adaptations in plants, refer back to surface area to volume ratio. So a plant that needs to reduce its water loss will have curled leaves, as this traps moisture and reduces the surface area. They will have a thick waxy cuticle to stop water loss through the leaves. In dry climates, they will have a very wide, shallow root system which allow them to get water when it rains very quickly before it evaporates, and they have special tissues which will expand and allow them to store more water. A cacti is an example of a plant that is well adapted to live in dry areas, as they have stems that can store water, a wide root system as previously stated. In addition, cacti also have spines instead of leaves. These minimize the surface area to reduce water loss by transpiration, and it also helps protect them from predators and being eaten. Competition is where animals and plants compete with each other in order to get some sort of factor. In animals, the things that they compete for are food, territory, and the ability to mate with each other. In plants, the four main things that they compete for are light, water, nutrients, and space. Habitats have limited amounts of the resources needed by living organisms to survive, so organisms must compete for these resources. Animals and plants that more successfully compete for these resources survive longer and are able to reproduce. One thing that might come up in the exam is a predator-prey graph. A predator-prey graph shows the relative size of a population of a prey in comparison to the relative size of the population of a predator. They always follow the same pattern. We start off that the population of prey grows. Because the population of prey is growing, that gives more food for the predators, so therefore the population of predators can grow after. As the population of predators grow, however, they eat more of the prey, so therefore the amount or the population size of the prey decreases. This decrease in food causes a decrease in the size of the population of predators. As the population size of the predators decreases, there are less predators to eat the prey, therefore the population of the prey can begin increasing again and the cycle starts. One last area that you could be asked about in this section is how environmental change can be measured. average temperature, wind, rainfall, light, pH, which is acidity or alkalinity, oxygen levels, other species, and climate can affect where organisms live. If any of these change, the biodiversity can be affected. Bioindicators can be used to monitor the change. A good example of this is lichens, which are sensitive to air pollution. Bees have been affected by a range of things over the years. Bees can be affected by disease, which causes them to die off. We must also comment on the fact that bees are important for the pollination of plants, so if the population of bees decreases, these plants will no longer be pollinated. There might also be unknown causes for the decrease in the bee population, for instance pesticides and climate change. Bird habitats and migration affected by an entire range of things can be talked about. Dartford warblers are more common due to an increase in temperature, but less common in Spain where it is now too warm, which is an indicator of different changes of temperatures in different countries. In the exam, you may be given some data to look at on the amount of birds that people have seen, and these are the sorts of things that you will need to comment on. Some species of plants and animals can only live in clean environments, so therefore if these species are not present, then it is a good indicator that there must be a high level of pollution. We can use them to indicate how the pollution has changed over time. We call this type of species an indicator species. So, to finish off, in terms of your revision for this area, remember to switch off things which are going to distract you. Revision earlier in the day is more effective as your brain will be more active in the morning. And finally, quality revision is better than quantity. Please follow the link below to download a summary sheet on this section and like and look at the other videos which talk about core biology. Good luck with your exams.